Good afternoon. As Bronwyn said, I'm Alison Byrne and I lead the Operations Division at the VBA. The Operations Division is pretty much the end-to-end regulatory arm of the VBA now that we've recently brought together customer experience, quality and regulatory practice, licensing and registration, compliance and enforcement, and cladding. I'm here to share with you today something that's really quite exciting. Over the last couple of months, we've been working on a new regulatory approach. We've talked to some of you and others within the industry to take stock of where we are at an individual level, where we are as a system, and importantly, where we want to be. I think it's fair to say that we all recognise that we work in a system and that we're all reliant on others within the system. We're partners, stakeholders, co-regulators, service providers, educators, and the list goes on. The beneficiaries of the system are everyone that works within it and those whose work supports the system. Of course, key beneficiaries include the public, individuals, and families. Our regulatory approach needs to reflect the system in which we operate and the overall objectives, the purpose of the system. So, why do we regulate? We, the Victorian Building Authority, registered building surveyors, municipal building surveyors, Electrical Safety Victoria, WorkSafe, we all regulate to protect the safety and health of people who use buildings, improve the amenity of those buildings, and ensure the achievement of efficient and competitive building and plumbing industries in Victoria. We don't regulate to put heads on stakes. We don't regulate to hamper innovation, and we don't regulate to produce silos and isolated parts within the system. Getting practitioners, businesses, and industry into the green channel is the regulatory approach that we've been working on. That's why we regulate. The green channel approach is modelled on the objectives and the purpose of the building construction system and the core values of the VBA. The green channel, drawn from the Australian Customs model, is predicated on the principle that if people are informed clearly and supported appropriately, then it's not unreasonable to expect compliance and good performance. We want to ensure that practitioners remain in the green, and we'll take appropriate action when practitioners stray into the amber or the red, either by misstep or willfulness. Now, the green channel not only represents the core values of the VBA, but it's also a representation of the VBA's philosophy of ensuring that individuals are given every opportunity to do the right thing. And the vast majority of individuals want to do the right thing. If a practitioner operates in the green channel and they're knowledgeable and capable, but slip into the amber channel, we'll help them return to green, to reset. This is the best result for industry, not to mention the practitioner. And if a practitioner is incapable or willfully does the wrong thing, then they'll be dealt with in accordance with the risk and harm that they create and sanctioned or removed from the industry. So we've all driven in a car, approaching a traffic light. If the light's green, you go through because you know what to do and you know it's safe. If the light's amber, you slow down and you're alert to approaching danger. If the light's red, you don't go through, because if you do, you're putting the lives of other drivers, passengers, and pedestrians at risk. We all know the road rules. We all know the consequences of not following those rules, even before we get in a car. And depending on the gravity of your misbehaviour on the road and your prior history, we all know the possible sanctions that apply. For a sustainable, safe and successful industry, we want people to operate in the green channel. Now, we know what that means for when you're driving in a car, but what does it mean to our industry? It's not just about compliance. It's about safety. It's about sustainability. It's about innovation, and it's about working together. Tomorrow, the State Building Surveyor, Andrew Cellini, will also speak on this, focusing on engagement, education, and guidance. Today, I'll concentrate on the VBA's inspections and audits program and how they promote the Green Channel approach. So in our proactive inspections program, we see that over 70% of practitioners are in the Green Channel. They're complying. Over the last 2 years, proactive inspections program has enabled us to see more clearly the trends, risks, and opportunities in the industry. And we've also seen an increased performance related to the proactive inspections program. Over recent quarters, we've seen that the quality of work on site has improved, particularly in regard to timber framing elements, treated pine adopted more often on site, installation of temporary downpipes to stop water ponding against footing to eliminate slab heave, and improvements in site signage. You'll also see that there has been an increase in compliance risks found over recent years. This is in part because we've learnt a lot since we commenced the proactive inspections program. We know more about what to look for and where to look for it, so that we're using intelligence and analytics more precisely to drive where we go and who we see. We'll continue to do this to look for those at risk of departing from the Green Channel and those who are in the Amber Channel. Through the inspections process, we can bring them back to green. You'll also see that a very small number, last year, this was around 1.5% of sites inspected, revealed practitioners who are operating in the red. These are the practitioners who will receive the full extent of our focus and enforcement action and increased monitoring should they be allowed to remain in the industry. Now, if you're doing the right thing, often you're not aware of those who aren't. Here you see some of the poor work that our inspectors have seen this year. A tap that, when turned on, pours water onto a flat basin and then directly onto the floor. A pipe, a service pipe running on top of the edge beam. A school water pump that, when used, will definitely ensure that kids get a mouthful of water. The second photo there, just have a look at the brick ties in the stud frame. Now, some of these cases are caused by a lack of knowledge and experience. Some are due to uncertainty around the rules or application of the code. And some, well, you just have to wonder. Now, some examples might be funny, but they all have the potential to bring the industry into disrepute, not to mention cause damage and harm. And they all affect the people who live, work, learn, and play in these buildings and places. A proactive inspection of a particular Class 1 building recently revealed 3 high-risk issues. The first was an unprotected 3-metre deep vertical site cut, which we refer to WorkSafe. Now, the current WorkSafe compliance code for excavations requires that when a trench is 1.5 metres or greater, it must have shoring installed and be batted or battered correctly to work in the trench safely. Now, WorkSafe launched a campaign last year specifically about the risks of trenching collapse following fatalities on Victorian work sites. This is a critical safety issue. We also found at that site the possible undermining of footings on the adjoining wall on the boundary due to the installation of plumbing piping and the removal of a pool safety barrier for the installation of a basement. In dealing with this case, the VBA forwarded a notification of high-risk building activity to the construction company, which prompted immediate action by the company to address the matters raised. The company provided the VBA with a structural engineer's report and photographic evidence of the actions taken after the inspection to protect the adjoining property and proof that the temporary fence had been erected around the pool. Further, the company completed a detailed safety audit of the site. This is a great example of the green channel approach in practice. Through monitoring performance, we found a practitioner in the amber channel, but through raising awareness and providing support, the practitioner was brought back to green. There are cases though, and you know of some of them, where the practitioner should not continue to practice. This is because of the harm that they have caused and will continue to cause, the impact of their actions on those who have engaged them, and on the industry as a whole. And in these cases, the VBA will protect the community by sanctioning them for their wrongdoing and removing them from practice. In this case, we received several complaints from registered building surveyors, municipal building surveyors, and homeowners concerning this building surveyor's conduct. We found multiple examples of substandard work and a pattern of incompetence, including issuing a building permit when the builder named on the permit was not a registered building practitioner, and the name shown on the insurance policy didn't match that named builder. Negligence arising from the issue of a building permit for reblocking works based on a deficient application. Now, this resulted in the builder failing to disconnect the essential services and extensive damage to the brick entrance pillars and strip footing in the house. Providing knowingly false and misleading information and documents to the relevant council, and performing work outside the permitted scope of his registration. We ultimately determined that this practitioner was not fit and proper to practice as a building surveyor and inspector. Of course, we balance many factors, at times competing, when making a decision about whether or not to remove someone from industry. We carefully consider the impact to fellow practitioners, co-regulators, and homeowners when making a decision as to what is in the public interest. This year marks the third year of the Enhanced Proactive Inspections program, and cases like this one are, thankfully, in the minority. This year is also the first year for our new Building Surveyor Audit program. The key objective of these audits is to deliver relevant and reliable measures of performance to drive improvements in the construction of the built environment and increase confidence in the industry. We want to ensure that building legislation is applied correctly and consistently and informs the VBA's activities relating to education, communication, enforcement, and regulatory improvements. The outcomes of the audits, including the trends, concerns, will be published, similar to the Proactive Inspection Program results. And this will promote the green channel approach by clarifying expectations and inspecting what's expected. We'll help those who have slipped into the amber channel return to green, while also promoting a better industry by exiting those who are in the red. The result of our audits of documentation for Class 1 buildings in affected areas during the December 2019 bushfires emphasised the value of the audit program. In these cases, we've dealt with practitioners who are effectively in the amber channel by ensuring non-compliances and safety issues are addressed in individual cases, and by developing an education program for designers and building surveyors who work in this area. We'll also use this intelligence to inform our proactive inspections program to ensure these practitioners don't slip into the red channel. The final topic that I want to speak to today is the statewide cladding audit. I know that I don't need to tell you that combustible cladding is one of the most significant issues for the building and construction industry that we'll deal with in our time. But more than that, it's a significant social issue affecting multiple industries, practitioners, homeowners, and occupants. The VBA is not just the building and plumbing regulator in this case. We're also responsible for the statewide cladding audit program in Victoria, a program that was established by the Victorian Government on the recommendation of the Victorian Cladding Task Force. We've inspected around 3,080 properties as part of the statewide cladding audit. Of those, 825 have been rated as higher risk by the Independent Advisory Reference Panel. Over 730 practitioners are associated with those risk-rated properties. Roughly about 25% of those are building surveyors, 60% are builders, and 15% are fire engineers. We've reviewed and investigated the conduct of practitioners who are associated with over 550 properties in the statewide cladding audit. This represents over 100 practitioners, with 29% receiving a show cause notice why the VBA should not take disciplinary action against them. We're taking action against those practitioners whose conduct was found to be dangerous, in breach of the Act and regulations, unprofessional or negligent. Many practitioners are being dealt with in the amber channel and some are being dealt with in the red channel. The statewide cladding audit is bigger and more complex than what was first imagined by the Victorian Cladding Task Force. The VBA is working with the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning and other agencies to determine the scope of the audit into the future and to improve the timeliness and consistency of the audit while maintaining a safety-first focus. But just as important in this discussion is what we're doing at the systems level. The VBA is focusing on what the challenge of combustible cladding means, its consequence for the industry as a whole, and parts of the industry specifically, like building surveyors, to learn how this happened and to implement change so that a similar issue doesn't happen again. The Victorian public expects the VBA and others in the system to do something about combustible cladding. They expect the VBA to hold practitioners who have created this harm to account, and they expect the VBA to ensure that the industry changes and improves to keep them safe and secure in the future. We're all working in a system, a complex system with various parts that are related and interdependent. Through this responsive regulatory approach, we're looking at the system as a whole and determining the best way to achieve the outcome that we're working to. And what's that outcome? Well, simply put, we will increase our efforts to support people who are in the green channel stay green. We'll concentrate on bringing those who slip back to green because that's the outcome we all want. We'll focus on the three good wheels as much as the squeaky one to play our part in ensuring safe, sustainable and successful building and plumbing industries, industries that all Victorians have confidence in. So let me leave you with this message. You're in a car approaching a traffic light. Until now, you might have thought the VBA wasn't watching. Until now, you might have been frustrated at other drivers going through the amber and red lights while you're doing the right thing. Until now, you might have thought that you could go through the amber light with little consequence. And a small number of you might have thought that you could floor it through the red light. The VBA is out in greater numbers than ever before. We're setting up checkpoints down the road before the lights to talk to you about what's on the road ahead, to understand whether you've travelled on the road before, your experiences and concerns. We'll be letting you know what we expect when you approach the lights ahead and the other users of the road. We're even talking to Vic Roads to discuss traffic conditions and road safety initiatives. And at the lights, we're using intelligence and surveillance techniques to to stop people going through the amber light, to protect you and others on the road to lives.